My name is Cordy Walker, and I'm on a mission to figure out how to improve the way that we learn and get better at golf. I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world talking with leading golf instructors and researchers, really to learn how they're helping their students get better, and then figure out what that means for you.
Today we find ourselves in Birmingham, Alabama. We are at Blackburn Golf, Mark Blackburn's golf academy here for a really cool reason. So if you follow the podcast, you know that Body Track has been a big supporter of everything that we've been doing and really appreciate it. And the main reason for that is I reached out because I really enjoyed their certification that they shot. It was Sasho MacKenzie and Mark Blackburn. And so I was excited to come down here and really hang out with these guys and see exactly what they're doing, because they are moving this segment of the interaction with the ground, the player on the ground, forward. Mark, we were down here at your place shooting this Body Track cert, and let's walk through, because the space I feel like is needs some purpose in the design here. So take us through here.
All right, well, welcome to the Greystone Performance Center. We built this about 3 years ago, and it's more for function than it is for fashion. So like anything, when you build a teaching center, you're kind of at the mercy of the club's architecture, but everything on the inside is kind of our tech and what at the time was available in the marketplace. So let's take a tour, come on in and see what you think. First thing in here, obviously, for whatever reason, a bit of notoriety, you get some section awards. The one I'm most proud of is actually not mine. It's Brian's, who won our section teacher of the year last year. And we need to get the doors fixed, as you can see. They didn't quite get the trim right on the bottom. However, Brian won the section teacher of the year last year. I've won it multiple times, but it was awesome to have kind of somebody that you've mentored and helped get the award. So that one's the one we're most proud of, and that's why it's up there at the top. We're doing some edumacation, as we would call it, entertainment and education. This is coffee to keep everybody fueled. Golf Channel's on. Flags, tournaments we've been to, we got buckets of these still not framed, bags of players we've worked to, just to give it a little bit of authenticity for people to feel a bit closer to some of the people they might see on TV.
You mentioned Brian, that stands out. Anything out, like any other piece of this that like really is meaningful to you?
Yeah, probably Heath beating Tiger in the 2009 Barclays is pretty cool. Made a putt, like a 40-footer at Liberty National. The week before, he just got in the playoffs. He wasn't even in Wyndham, but he got in. He was the last man in. He's kind of down on his game. We worked on his putting. He ended up winning that week. So that's pretty cool, pretty sentimental, and he beat Tiger. So that's always a good one. The lounge, also our Scotty Cameron fitting center, but as you can see, it's got camera and tech in it. That's Oklahoma State playing in the national championship. This is actually cool. This is from back when I used to play golf. This is the Assistants Championship many moons ago. I don't know what year, 2000 or something, 2001.
Oh, you won.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Amazing. That's back when I played golf. This is that I've caddied. I caddied for Heath. I have a 100% cut record on the PGA Tour. I've done it like 3 or 4 times. 11th is my best finish at Tampa. Office, that's where people get billed. This is our one of our main sort of tech bays. Here is Brian, superstar teacher. Say hello, Brian.
Hey, Cordy.
This is the Dixie, well, Alabama, Northwest Florida now. Used to be Dixie, section teacher of the year 2017. And this is one of his new students. And your name, sir, is?
Caleb Morrow.
This is Caleb Morrow. So there we go, we got 3D, we got plenty of TV screens. If you're gonna build a teaching center, put loads of screens in there. Everybody likes screens. They didn't have like 80 inches back when this place got built, but they do now, so we need to put bigger screens in there.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
I don't see a whiteboard in many studios.
Okay,
Why
so
do you
there's
have a
a whiteboard in every single teaching center, and so I'm a huge fan of, like, when someone gets their question, first question, what do you want the golf ball to do? And then we kind of start with this like mind map, which becomes a living thing, and then you've got, so what's the setup you need, what's the backswing pivot you need, what's the downswing pivot you need, and what are the alignments you need to support the shot that you're trying to hit. And then we create this blueprint, and it's there. We then use things like Coach Now, where we can actually create an online portal for them, athlete management, and they have all of this documented in there, and then we create drills for each of those things, so that everyone has a framework and a reference with which then to go apply and to work on their game to get their given outcome. So the whiteboards are huge, they're in every single bay. They're just really useful, and the stuff you write down, most of the time I think people forget probably about 80% of their lesson, but when you use that and you take pictures of it and you send it to them, now they have a big picture of, okay, well maybe I remember that. What does that word cue to them that you talked about in the lesson? And that's the reality of why there's a whiteboard in every single bay.
So, being given a very important task here with Mark Blackburn. It's mission critical to this filming.
Mission critical. Mission critical, yes.
Mission critical is that we need a sledgehammer for an illustration. And we have been sent to find one. Sasho, so Mark and I went all the way to the store to get you a sledgehammer. Tell us a bit more what we're trying to learn from this.
So it seems like players who have higher club head speeds develop a lot of force underneath that lead foot at this specific point in time in the swing. And while it could directly contribute to club head speed, I think it could also have to do with allowing the golfer a better ability to control the momentum of the club through impact so they can make clean contact. So let me give you an example. If you were to take a golfer and they were hitting balls here with their driver and they were making a nice balanced finish, watching the ball fly, and they said, okay, here's this sledgehammer. I want you to try and hit the ball with the sledgehammer. And we got 8 pounds here stuck at the end of this this wooden handle here. And what you'd probably see is as the sledgehammer went past the ball, they would get pulled forwards, right? And that's because they probably didn't adjust the ground reaction forces, the amount of force they're putting into the ground, to compensate for this added momentum in the hammerhead that's going to be pulling them out, right? So what we'd see then on the second swing, they'd say, well, gee, I'm not going to be in very good control if I want to find the sledgehammer making contact with the back of the ball if it's pulling me forward. So when I get to this part of the downswing, I better have already developed more force in that lead foot, right? That's going to help me rotate this way, give me some momentum in my body back in this direction away from the ball. It's going to allow me to counteract that momentum that I've developed in the hammer. So I might be able to make a swing here. I'm going to try to, this could be disastrous. Let's see what happens. Whoa, yeah! But I was able to develop more force underneath that lead foot at shaft vertical, so I didn't lose my balance.
So the point here is, if I'm swinging at 100 mile an hour right now, and I want to get to 120, I need to be able to develop more force under that lead leg to, in a sense, counterbalance all of that new speed. Is that right?
That's right. So it could be actually a governor. If maybe you have the potential in your body to swing faster, but you just never do it because you don't want to lose balance.
All right, now for the exciting part is a long drive competition with the sledgehammer. I don't even have a prediction who's going to win.
I predict somebody's going to get hurt. Yeah, let's see. Keep my hands spread apart, maximize the couple. Okay, it's very heavy.
it's hard to hit this solidly, right, or make good contact. This is a stupid example, but
it's extreme
because we can't manage everything that's going on. It's the same with driver, right? So if you suddenly go from 100 to 115, such a change that we can't manage that physically. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it becomes very challenging. Yes, exactly.
And a big part of that is we don't know how to add stability with what's going on with the vertical force and the lead leg.
Exactly.
And that is it. Golf swing solved. Done. Talking wedges, short game. Let's try not to get hit.
So this drill's like money, like in terms of, I've had a lot of success with everybody, like trying to get them to shallow it out, like more
body rotation.
Yes, starting from here, club in this position, front foot's here, and then more up and around. So you get the angle of attack pretty shallow.
Jason Day.
Yeah, well, Duffner, Kite.
Yeah, Duffner.
Like I always struggle with the rotation in order to, like, I can rotate, Cordy might get hit here, but this would be a typical old school, like you get that look, like the pull, the like swing direction savagely to the left, like 15 down. Whereas when you have the less of the slide, more of the lead arm working up and around, but maintaining the shaft lead, now you can get more of that drawy look with a lot of rotation with a shallow angle of attack, and they're like, so it's only 5 down. Hand pass working up round the corner more, the handle's working in and up. So the towel, I'm using the pivot to control that as opposed to this motion where, and then now you, yes, I'm not sliding, but now I have a totally dysfunctional swing plane. Or delivery of the club. Let's talk of club alignments. Oh!
He knocked the foot off of the tripod. How do you do that?
So it's, hold on, let's try one more. Don't stand there. Come on. So we've all been told that we need to keep our weight on the front foot for the short game. There's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, the number one is really to be able to maintain the bottom of the arc so we have low point control, we make pretty good contact. But the reality is, even though we feel like our pressure is staying on our front foot, or our weight, excuse me, our actual center of pressure is going to move around a little bit. That gives it some dynamics to the shot. So if I set up here, I'm going to set up for a pitch shot with a fairly open stance. I'm going to try and keep my weight on my front foot. You're going to see that the pressure is still going to shift a little bit to the trail leg, even though I feel like my pressure is staying on the front foot. And then as the club works around to the left, I'm going to end up with the pressure towards the heel. And we're going to see the pressure trace move more towards the front heel, the lead heel. That's because I'm trying to get into and deliver the club consistently. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Here's one we hit. So I'm about 60, 68%. I've got some shaft lean. Okay, so now I'm taking the club back, and you can see as I bring the club back, the pressure shifts. It now goes to 50-50, even though I feel like I'm keeping the weight under my front foot. The premise for that is I'm trying to maintain the bottom of the arc and control the low point, and now you can see that pressure is now working around and ends up into that trail heel, but it never excessively goes out towards the toe, but it definitely moves during the swing, even though I feel like all the weight is on my front foot. And the moral of the story there is that whilst we're keeping our weight on our lead side to maintain the low point of the arc, our pressure actually, even on these short shots, does shift from the lead to the trail and then back to the lead.
All right, so it's not often you get the chance to hang out with a world-renowned biomechanist. And so you're just hitting some shots.
Where is he?
Did you see him in here?
Yeah, I want to meet him.
And so I was hitting some shots, and we've got a body track mat down. So I thought, what a chance to talk through what all these graphs mean and understand it. I think that's pretty cool. So let's just dive in here and see what we got.
All right, we got Cordy taking a swing with a 7-iron, and what you'll notice is that he's right away. If we look over here in this pressure trace, we can see that he's already got quite a bit of his pressure in his setup down towards his trail heel. Okay, so he's already kind of loaded into that back foot. And you can see he's kind of got a bit of a feeling around in the ground there to kind of get set in his posture before he takes the club back. Really going to lead load, applying a lot of force into that trail heel as he moves into the top of his backswing position. And this is pretty common to see as the swing starts down. Before even a lot of the motion has started in the downswing, you can see that center of pressure is starting to loop up towards that lead toe. So he's got a pattern like, hey, you know what, if we didn't see where the trace eventually goes, we'd be saying, yeah, look, this is maybe a pattern that says it's going to get the club moving in to out, right? But I know you like to play a fade, and this is to me a nice way to play a fade, is making sure then you get that pressure into the lead heel right away. So we want to be getting hips clearing, and now that's going to help you by really making sure that lead heel gets down, cleared the hips. Your body is now going to be moving, your center of mass is going to be moving to be supported more over that lead heel, and that's going to help have that path be slightly out to in. Right, so we can see that loading the lead heel, and then we can see the kind of the center of pressure trace moving back a little bit this way. All that is that you're also applying a lot of pressure out here on the trail toe, right? So that's why we see that little bit of movement in the center of pressure back towards that trail toe before settling in closer to the lead heel.
Gotcha.
Follow through.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What does this mean over here? Explain this.
Sure. So this is how quickly your center of pressure is moving. The white line is laterally, so that's to and away from the target. Positive means how fast that center of pressure is moving towards the target. And usually that center of pressure velocity, if we go back, that's telling us when this peak is right around here, that's where you're going to see that center of pressure making a big move from the trail side to the lead side. So that's that white line. That's how fast that dot's going to be moving across the screen. And the red curve is how fast is it shifting from heel to toe. And you don't have a ton of speed in that direction of the center of pressure.
What do you think about this trace, right? Like, you are the interpreter of pressure traces.
Yeah.
So what does this mean to you? Is this a good movement for an iron? Is this a bit too busy? Would you rather it be simpler? Like what?
No, no, not at all. I think there's nothing about the trace that tells me that it's going to cause any issues in your swing. In fact, I like the fact that you're trying to play a fade and that this center of pressure trace does kind of move into that lead heel. While I can't look at a trace and tell you the path of your club through impact, if you have someone, for example, that's swinging a little bit, if you're a coach, you're like, you're swinging a little bit too much into out through impact, maybe you got a +7 or 8 path, and you're like, we'd like that to be a little closer to 0. Mm-hmm. Then getting them to think about how can they shift that center of pressure trace kind of in the direction you've already got yours, then that would be good. So to me, this pattern is kind of matching up with the ball flight you like to play, which is a bit of a cut.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And why do we look at this data? Like so we looked at this and we've done some analysis.
Yep.
Right? And it looks, from what you said, it looks fine. Is that typically what you do? You're looking at this and seeing if something jumps out. It's like you've got a scary movement of your center pressure trace, or you've got way too much heel-toe velocity going on. Like what?
Yeah, I like it as a feedback tool for players or as a benchmarking tool. Hey, I just played the best round of golf of my life. Come on in here. Let's see what your center of pressure is doing right now, and let's hit some good balls. Is that a good ball, Cordy? Yeah, okay, let's hit some drivers, some 5-irons. Let's capture that, because sometimes things can show up in that center of pressure trace when you're not playing well, right? And we compare the two and we're like, oh, I think we see something here. Might explain why your swing's not quite working so well for you right now. 4. Weight versus pressure, they're not the same thing, although often in everyday use we use them interchangeably. But weight really refers to the center of mass. And if I'm talking about shifting my weight from one side to the other, we can see that. We can see my center of mass moving. Pressure, on the other hand, and in particular center of pressure, tells us the relative distribution of those vertical forces that we're applying to the ground. Here's a very clear example. If I was to quickly pick up my left feet up and down, like if I was doing a football drill through a ladder, what you will see is my center of pressure shifting completely from one foot to the other, but visually you can tell that my center of mass isn't moving very far at all. So if I was to do this with my feet, that center of pressure is moving completely from my left foot to my right foot, yet my center of mass is barely moving at all in that medial-lateral direction. There's a very big difference between weight and pressure.
That is a wrap on day one. Sasho, Ben, Mac, the gang, they killed it. That is the sport medicine fitness side. Tomorrow, golf. Let's get to it. We are in Birmingham, Alabama, and when you're in Birmingham, there's one place you gotta go. It's the Mine Side. Where's our logo up there? That way?
Right up there.
There it is. Brett, we're gonna go on a cribs tour of your spot because it's incredible.
Let's do it.
Lead us on.
All right, so this is a former door and window showroom. And for me, it's all about vision. And what I saw when I came in here, they tried to put me on another building, another room here in this building. I went, I want space. I want a place where I can do training. And I want something that makes people think when they walk in the door. I don't want to be the traditional shrink's office. I want something different. So let's go inside. So this is the Mine Side. Every good doctor's office has to have an entryway, but I didn't want the stuffy mentality feeling. And as a clinical psychologist, I don't want people to feel stressed when they come in. I want the sports feel, so that's why we have jerseys on the wall. We have a front desk, people come in and hang out, and there's windows where people can look at other folks out there putting, working on their games. So let's go into the main lab, the main part. So we've got some trophies, some, I got to show off some national championships.
Yeah, tell us, what are these?
So these are 2 national championship footballs given to being the psychologist for the athletic department. When they won their national title back 2 years ago, that's the ball. This is a putting green, so it's a 1,000 square foot putting green, and it actually runs at about a 10 or 11 on the stem. We had it built out by Southwest Greens, came in, spent some time. We dropped some walls to give it a little bit more of a feel, but just like today at the US Open for the women, we had about 7 or 8 different players over here working on their games because they're in a rain out. And it was a great place to come in. So juniors can come in and train. Anybody who's a part of the Mine Side can come in and train. We have a hitting bay. I don't do just golf, but this is the easiest thing to put in. So putting green works 4 different areas. You can chip on it. People can stand over here and watch on the table, hitting net. Our conference room.
Show me some of these. Let's talk about these flags.
These flags.
Talk to me. What are some ones that mean something to you, or like what are some really cool ones?
Yeah. So some of my early clients are Heath Slocum, and then other folks: John Rahm, Brian Harmon, Chris Stroud when he won his first tour event in Reno, Lucas Glover, Stephen Yeager, who shot 58 on the web and has won now 4 times on the web tour. This is Kevin Chappell, who I worked with for the first couple years of his tour, doing great. GMAC from the US Open last year. Harris English, Patton Kazire 2015 Web.com Player of the Year, and now 2-time winner on the PGA Tour. To me, I have a philosophy that we're all climbing our own mountain, and mountain climbers plant the flag when they do something great. So while I would love to have, let's see, in the last year, I want to say we've had 8 or 9 victories on the PGA and European and Web Tour, maybe 10, maybe more than that. I'd like to get a flag from every one of those victories. Unfortunately, that's almost impossible. So we just look at one flag and say, well, he's won 4 times, so that's pretty cool. But if I had my way, I'd have a flag for every top 5 finish that every one of my players has, because I think a top five is where you plant the flag. And
what was of any of these, what do you think was the turning point for you? Of like when you feel like you took a next step as being able to help people achieve what they wanted to?
It's a great question. I think the best thing that happened was when I started realizing the power of self-belief and got people to believe not in a system and not in anything that I would teach them, but teach them to believe in their system and the electricity goes out. I guess we're not paying our electric bill. The biggest switch for me was getting people to believe in themselves and finding their pathway and not be chasing all the different struggles, but instead to focus on what makes them successful and reduce a lot of the noise that they had. When people build their self-belief, they become very successful. So if you look at that board, every one of those players plays differently, but it's most importantly, they trust how they play. So these flags are, I think I brought them out to the side because I think they're just cool. Brian Harmon came in second last year, tied for second at the US Open in Erin Hills. What I loved about what Brian did at Erin Hills is everybody sees this massive course. Brian's one of the best players I've ever seen. I love every guy I work with. And he defines exactly the Mindside way. Find what makes you tick and own it. And he went head to head, had the 63-hole lead and Erin Hills, so it's a nice little touch there. John from the Masters and then Steven Yeager when he qualified for the US Open last year. So my goal is ultimately to have every one of these walls filled. We also have other sports in here, articles that have been done on Golf Magazine or other players that I've worked with along the line. My work for University of Alabama and the coaches that I've gotten material from, University of Northern Kentucky and different sports. So what makes this place great besides the electricity dropping out is that we have tons of space to do things. So this is our filming cube. We are launching the Mindside Academy here real soon, which is an online training academy across multiple sports. It's all mindset. And if you think you know what the mindset's all about, go to the Mindside Academy. We're going to teach you a whole new way of doing things. So we do our filming in here. And then, so in here is Megan Gilbert, who, because we've struggled with weather today, everybody went home. Megan is one of the up-and-comers in the mental skills training world and great person to have in the Mindside as one of our team members, but really more importantly, a really great sounding board for me. This is our video team and our creative. As you can tell, anytime a video team has a chance to be creative, they got to put lights on the walls. This is a little bit of a podcast room that I use sometimes. It's really more of a closet. We have an extra office for a future practitioner, which we'll be bringing in very soon. And then down here is our creative cubes and a white wall, which every great office has got to have a white wall, right? So with ideas and old ideas that we've erased. And then we'll come into the rest of our team. Mike Ozipak is our director of marketing and development and all the things that go with it. And Brett Basham, who runs our online program, sits here. He's probably hiding from the camera. The cool thing is, what I love about it is Mike and Brett are both SEC baseball players. Alabama and Ole Miss both came out of the tree that I played under. So there's a lot of familiarity in the way we do things and the way we work. So this is the Mindside. It's a pretty great place because it's there's really no other psychologist office like it, and we want to be different. But more importantly, it's a place that if people wanted to come in and train, they can. We'd love it to be packed every day like it was today, but the vast majority of the time people are outside working on their game.
So I think the question that people have is most sports psychologists have an office similar to your conference room, and that's it. You have this huge space, a large staff. What motivates you, or what are you trying to do here? What's the big vision?
So when I started back in 2009, I knew that the mental game was something that people did a lot of surface talk about, but nobody was really going to make the investment. You're right, most people have a little office and it's about a percentage of their time. This is all we do at the Mindside, is sports and performance. So your business, life, whatever, we're working to perform better. I want to change the game. And I want to bring sports psychology to the forefront and make it a standard. Everybody knows how important the mental game is to their overall performance. Few people are willing to make the investment, but I think some of that is because we as providers don't do a great job of making it easy for people to get involved. There's a stigma, there's something wrong, or there's some other factor they're not comfortable. So what I want to do is people come in and feel comfortable coming in here. There are days I'm in shorts, there's days I'm wearing flip-flops. I want people to feel comfortable when they come in. My ultimate vision of the Mindside is to bring sports and performance psychology to every level of every athlete and give each person the chance to find their pathway. So we've got different execution plans in place, Mindset Academy being one of them. And I think you'll probably see us in about 2 years move into a new building. We're going to build out a larger facility. Eventually, I'd love to have a training component to it where somebody can come in and do some physical training.
Well, that is the mind side. Thank you, Brett.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Here.
Thank you. You got it.
Welcome down to the morning of day 2 here at the shoot. Today, we are talking golf. We'll catch some snippets here of Mark and Sasho going through this, and there's no doubt this is going to be really good.
When I rotate and I don't slide, so I try and keep my pressure working around me, I have a much better time managing this angle of attack. So here I am on a short shot. I'm going to be relatively shallow. I'm going to have the ball kind of in what I would call the center of my stance, fractional amount of shaft lean. And my focus here is to really stay nice and stable, nice and centered. And I'm going to try and let the club work through and around, and the club's definitely going to exit more around to the left. Now, if your student has a hard time feeling that and where the hand path goes, you can use the biofeedback in the body track and actually start to look at how the golfer interacts with the ground and see where that pressure goes, getting it more towards the lead heel so it never gets out on the toe. That's then going to help you manage the direction and deliver the club more consistently. So let's go ahead and try one. We're going to get that stance relatively narrow. We've got the ball kind of in the middle of the stance, and all I'm going to do is just let the head swing, try and get that club exiting around, finish with pressure in my lead leg, keeping my weight forwards. So there's a really nice nipped shot. The ball's back by the flag. I was able to manage that angle of attack. You can see here's a tight lie a little bit into the grain, but I was still able to make really nice contact. That's because I managed my center of pressure. I managed to rotate and clear, get into my lead heel, never got into the toe, standing the handle up, and I was able to deliver the loft consistently, engage the bounce, and produce a nice spinning shot.
I've never swung that fast in my life. I hit it badly, but...
Not that badly.
No. That's crazy. That is weird. So my typical driver club head speed is like 111, 112. Let's see if I can do a normal kind of driver. 111.
Called it.
Not bad. So we're not capturing this live, unfortunately. We did the actual increase in speed off camera, but we thought we'd replicate. Okay, typical golf swing, 111. The problem is that my 7-iron is like 95, right? So there's something that's missing in the driver.
Yeah, we should see a bigger jump in the driver speed.
Okay.
Yep.
So the cue that Sasho gave me to hit it farther is to have the backswing faster. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so even though it's a simple cue with not much mechanical thoughts, the breakdown of the physics would be, we want as much club head speed as we can get. There's going to be a 100% correlation between the amount of kinetic energy, there's a big word, amount of kinetic energy in the club and club head speed. That's a mechanical relationship.
Yeah.
At the top of the backswing, we've got 0 kinetic energy, right? So we want to change that kinetic energy of the club as much as possible during the downswing. You do that by doing work on the club. And you can do linear work and angular work. The big thing for you was linear work. So in order to do more linear work, it's going to have the highest correlation to kinetic energy anyway. In order to do linear work, it's the force you apply along the hand path, that average force during the downswing, and the length of the hand path. So if you increase the average force, or you increase the length of the hand path, you get more club head speed. So for you, your cue, generally growing up and going through life was, okay, slow back swing, keep in sync, nice tempo, get to the top, and then I can fire hard.
Yep.
But if you take that to the extreme, you're probably in the middle, but you take it to the extreme like Hideki Matsuyama, you're applying zero force to the grip at the start of the downswing.
Right here.
Yeah, you have a long pause. So it's going to take you time to build up force, which means you're going to travel along that hand path, and your average force is going to be lower than it could be.
Yep.
So by me saying to you, hey, I want you to take a faster backswing, that means that club is going to be moving with speed in the backswing direction.
Yep.
You need to start applying a big force to it to change its direction. So now, when you start the downswing, there's already a reasonably high level of force being applied to the grip, which means that average force over the length of the hand path is going to be greater. And now, luckily for you, you're talented golfer, well coordinated.
Thank you.
You actually, I would argue, your sequencing improved slightly. You got a little bit more separation, X factor stretch, if you want to call that, between your lower body and your upper body. It's a nice stretch in your lat.
Yep.
So your sequencing even got better, right? But now we're starting applying a higher level of force at the start of the downswing. You're just going to add more kinetic energy into the club in the downswing.
So my typical cues to try to swing faster are maybe lift the left heel, really try to get that pressure down and squat. And I've never been able to get up. I can maybe get up to 113 or something like that, but never. And I've never even thought of this cue. So I got up to 117 before. Let's see if we can do it again. Sasho Magic. Your new program.
Yeah, all right.
So faster backswing.
Yep.
Such an easy cue.
Yeah, it's mechanical behind the scenes, but simple cues.
Right. That is launched. 115.8, so
there you go.
116.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a meaningful jump.
That's a meaningful jump. Let's see if I can even get it faster. And it's amazing because I've never had a cue to hit the ball harder, right?
Yeah.
I never had a good cue.
$16.5. There you go.
It's pretty awesome.
Physics, who knew?
Well done.
Cause and effect.
Biomechanics in action.
From a physics standpoint, it's pretty simple. We need a longer hand path or higher average force along the hand path. Those are the two ways to do linear work on the club.
Last shoot of the day, live lessons in the studio. Ben, how'd these 2 days go?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't melt. 85
It's a little
degrees.
warm.
Yeah, a little warm. Pretty excited about it though. We got a lot of really good content, excited to share with everybody.
All right, so first off, Mark, it's been a long week. Thank you for doing this. Just finished up body track, 2 days of that. We're out here today. This has been awesome. We got to watch your students.
All right, here we are, teaching center with one of my superstar students, Janie Jackson. Janie, how long have we worked together? 10 to 12 years. Oof, it's a lifetime. Okay. We fight a couple of things. In her swing, she generally tends to have a little bit of the upper body leading versus the lower body, and that tends to get, where's our swing direction tend to get, Janie? Left. So it gets quite a lot left, then that gets the path left, and Janie likes to hit draws, sometimes some fades with the driver, but generally likes to draw it, and we fight some pulls and then some flares to the right when the swing direction gets too far to the left. I'm a big fan. Janie doesn't like a lot of technical information. Would you say that you're technical or non-technical?
Not technical.
Not technical at all. And so I always look for what are the cues I can use to give someone information in a very non-technical way, but it can be really specific. So love external cues. So we're going to put a pool noodle out on the center line. Very, very simple. Old timers used to use ropes. They used to stretch out on the range. They'd start the ball right, start the ball left. We're going to use a pool noodle. Then we'll do some adjustments, but just see what Janie does when she's got that cue to try and start the ball a little more right. So, there you go, good. When you go slower, it's much easier for you to keep that lead arm inside your stance line, club more behind your hands, which then produces a draw from swing direction and the path going to the right, not you just hitting way down on it. That's really important as we get to these longer ones, because now all of a sudden we've got a shot that's going to carry further, get a little bit higher, land on the green more softly. So let's go a little bit more with the half shots. Look at every situation as what's the positive I can gain from this? What's the learning opportunity? Because even when it's like really bad, yeah, well, I could have probably done this differently. Don't be oh, woe is me, I got fired. We're in the business of getting hired to get fired as coaches. Be motivated, over-deliver what you're trying to do, and then look at if I messed up, or how could I have done it differently? And I always, it's one thing I have is a file. I call it a closing or leaving file. When a player leaves me, always, again, go back to that McCabe thing, make some notes. Well, what was good, what was bad, what would I have done differently, how could I have done it, changed it? And then that way you've always got some closure to it. You're like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but you can only ever do your best. If you've done what you think is your best, you've done your due diligence, your head can go down on the pillow and you're like, okay, I'm all good. And that's kind of that would be my advice to everybody is all you can do is your best. Sometimes your best isn't good enough, and you know what, that's okay. As long as you did what you thought was right with the information you had at the time. Sometimes we may look back in time and go, well, that wasn't right. Well, I always say we're practicing golf instructing just like a physician is practicing medicine. We're gonna get it better and better as long as we continue to evolve. So that would be my passing thoughts.
There you go, thank you, man. Appreciate it, this was fun.
You got it.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Golf Science Lab. I had a great time down in Birmingham with everybody. Thank you so much for the time, and especially a big thank you to BodyTrack for bringing me down as they're shooting this next content for their certification. Make sure to check that out at golfsciencelab.com/bodytrack and use the discount code GolfScienceLab to get an awesome discount. Thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube as well as on Apple Podcasts to stay up to date on everything we're doing at the Golf Science Lab.